excellence in sports entertainment.
Pro wrestling talk from the four corners of parts unknown. This is That Wrestling Podcast.
Welcome to That Wrestling Podcast. This is a TWP Extra. And no, you're not seeing double. The Twin Towers from the Quincy Jones Show are here with me this week. Doc Lesnar, Quincy Jones Go.
Yes, sir.
And just because it's a TWP Extra, we're hitting all the benchmarks. It's time for What Are You Wearing?
What are you wearing? What are you wearing? What are you wearing today? What are you wearing? What are you wearing? What are you wearing today?
It's a pro wrestling podcast, so pro wrestling shirts are mandatory, of course. We'll start with you, Doc. What are you wearing this week?
I'm wearing something pretty special. Got a nice little Dusty Rhodes, baby. Hard times, baby. Hard times. From his infamous, promo. Love me some Dusty Rhodes. Can't say enough. I mean, just in a nutshell, he was a guy that came up and embraced all of his flaws. Wasn't the most body guy. Wasn't the most chiseled dude, but was the most passionate. And that did a lot for me in my childhood and helped me get a lot of confidence. So love this shirt. Love this promo. Very tethered to it. Very, very much. So
very cool.
Yeah, he's a very, very huge Dusty fan for sure. Like
Dusty, baby.
When the news came that he passed, it hit him a little bit different.
Okay.
But for me, I got a little excited. King of Attitude, classic.
Ooh.
Stone Cold.
Very cool. I like that.
Surprised you, obviously, from the Iron Man match against him and good old the night of the double turn. You know what I mean? Which it's crazy because it worked. I remember, I'm like, who? This is the ringmaster guy, right? I'm like, all right, he has this like kind of new attitude towards him, but we'll see where it goes. And yet, no lie, I remember being like, hey man, that guy's pretty badass. He's pretty tough. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To this day, I mean, the image is iconic. It spawned a whole nother t-shirt design for him, of course, which sold millions. But one of my favorite times in wrestling, man, which it just felt real still. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
But just one of my favorite shirts, also because of the fact that, believe it or not, this is one of the cooler ones that they actually sell on WWE Shop. And I was very surprised. I had to snag this one.
Very cool. So for me, the very first pro wrestler that I ever met where I bought the 8x10 was Soul Train Jones. I was in middle school.
That's amazing.
And at my high school, they had, at the time, I was like, it's a wrestling show. That's cool. It was an indie show. This was back in 86 or 87. Anyway, Soul Train Jones.
That's awesome.
I remember the 8x10. I wish I had it. It was, he looked like Apollo Creed. He had the red, white, and blue trunks. I remember this to this day. If you don't know who Soul Train Jones is, it is one of the most underrated but most valuable members of the pro wrestling boom in the 80s, none other than Virgil.
Yes, sir.
Mr. The leader of the meat sauce mafia.
Yes. So I picked this up from Pro Wrestling Tees because in the last few months, it's come out that Virgil has hit some health issues. He was in Dallas WrestleMania. He wasn't
I actually didn't hear that.
Went to the doctor and ended up that he had a couple strokes that he wasn't aware of.
Oh, wow.
And then today on Twitter, it came out that he'd been diagnosed with stage 2 cancer. So if you can do anything to help Virgil out, it's at the Real Virgil on Twitter. Pick up a t-shirt. I believe he has a GoFundMe page. And he has an app game. It's only like $2 or $3. You can pick that up at the App Store. Just type in Virgil or meat sauce. It sounds funny to say. Just type in meat sauce, but I believe there's something meat sauce in the game.
Yeah, I remember him announcing that game. I think last year or something like that. So yeah, I do remember what you're talking about. Yeah, dude, that blew my mind. I didn't know. I didn't realize that they announced that. But because to be honest, he's been talking like he's just still him. Yeah. You know what I mean? I got to mad respect, dude. Yeah. Mad respect. Always. But yeah, definitely. Well wishes and you know what I mean. Definitely hope. Yeah, anything you guys can do to help, definitely, man. 100%.
So this week on the TWP Extra, I wanted to reach out to a couple guys that I had met a few years ago in Southern California. They host they're the host of the Quincy Jones Show.
Yep.
Quincy Jones, GOAT, and Doc Lesnar, not Brock, Doc Lesnar.
Yeah. No relation.
So you guys are twins. Who's the oldest?
That'd be me, Doc Lesnar.
By how long?
I believe it's like 5 minutes or so. We were preemies, and what was it? We came out the stomach, so it was
C-section. Yeah,
C-section. Yeah, so it was just scoop and scoop. You know, so a lot of people always get surprised about the 5 minute differential, but that's why. But you ask him, he always says, if it was natural, I would have been first. But you know,
yeah. I mean, you know, you just. There's just possibilities left on the table before we have to sit there and be like, oh, you're not my older brother just because you say so. I mean, the doctors made that decision, not us, you know, but whatever. It's cool.
That's the first time.
Kind of our dynamic.
As you can tell, it doesn't affect me at all.
Well, I'm an only child, so
okay.
I have my own set of issues there. And that is the first time the birthing process has been discussed on this podcast.
You're welcome.
Boom.
So let's talk about the show. When did it begin? Where did the idea? What's the origin story? We'll start with you, Quincy.
So
you're the namesake.
3 years ago, it's about probably let me rephrase. It'll be 4 years ago because I was going to school. I went back to school. I chose to back to Pasadena City College. I wanted to delve into the radio stuff, the broadcasting stuff, because I know we're gonna get into it later. I have a music background, but I was just thinking of that plan B, man. There was something about doing radio or something with music still that like really interests me in that entertainment field. So I kind of went back and started learning a lot of that stuff, but then that branched off into, oh wait, this is kind of cool because, I came to school, everyone, I was the oldest one in class, cool, whatever. But when it came to the projects, and it came to personality, I already had that because I'm used to being on stage and doing, kind of bring that personality through music. Mm-hmm. So that kind of like started getting my brain bubbling. I'm like, I could kind of do this and take less bumps in a way, right? Kind of, with that wrestler mentality, like I could kind of just not have to worry about rhyming and just talk and be entertaining. And maybe I can do something with this. And then I'm like, well, what do I like to talk more about more than wrestling? This is like, podcasts were still, relatively new, but I kind of, I took another year, figured out what I needed as far as gear, equipment and stuff like that. At the time, I was still doing a lot of writing. Whenever I'm in school, I do a lot of writing when it comes to music. So I was simultaneously working on this album and then thinking about maybe doing this radio thing. And I didn't have a name for the radio show just yet. So at the time, this is when Kevin Owens was doing the Kevin Owens show. He had as you can see with the logo and stuff like that, he took over the whole old school Monday Night Raw logo. And I just thought that was, kind of funny and so cool. I'm like, man, how come no one's really done that before? Like the kind of done the throwback thing for like wrestling. And I was like, man, that'd be funny if I did like the Quincy Jones show, like make it like a gimmick shirt or a parody shirt. And then it just kind of I was like, what if I made an album called the Quincy Jones Show? And I was like, that'd be kind of cool. And then I was like, but if I talk about wrestling a lot, which at that point I hadn't talked, it wasn't like the majority of my content. I would sprinkle in little punchlines here and there, but I'm writing a lot of like wrestling heavy, like punchlines and stuff like this at this point. And I was like, well, I can't just all of a sudden go into this. I got to kind of find a way for the people that usually listen to me, they're not used to just having this kind of content. So I'm like, I got to figure out a way to create some sort of launch pad to kind of get them there. So I was like, what if I did both? What if I came out with the album and the show? The show as a podcast is a way to kind of introduce, hey, this is what, a lot of people who know me already know me. I love wrestling. But now with the podcast, now I can, reach other people who already kind of know that. But now that I'm like, oh, I have this knowledge of it. We like to discuss it. We like to break it down every week, kind of make it a little bit more entertaining and digestible for other people who may not be fans, but we can kind of help them get there. And again, make it basically like the perfect introduction into this album. And then that was 3 years ago. and then we just haven't stopped. You know what I mean? And I have an album that like I'm finally putting out. I added some new stuff to it and added some, fine tuning and new touches, updated it a lot. But it's just funny how like I just got totally, not to, I got lost in the sauce, dude. Like it was one of those things where it was like a new interest that I just spiraled into, but in a great way.
Yeah, you threw yourself really into it.
And it was one of those things that where like I knew I can get my brother on board, and it was something we were already kind of doing because at the time my brother he was living with a couple of friends, and they had their house, a living situation, and I would come over a lot, because his place was close to. I used to take the bus to and from school at the time, so instead of going all the way back home to Chino Hills, I would just kind of stop at his house, crash a few times a week. And most of the time we'd catch wrestling, and it'd be me, him, and a couple of our other boys. And we'd just be talking wrestling, like, in the garage or something. I'm like, what if we just press record one day and did this? You know what I mean? Yep. And that's really what it was. So, yeah, I mean, my brother was on board with it. I mean, I asked him too. I'm like, dude, this is not an ego thing. I don't want it to be my show. You know what I mean? I explained to him, like, this is just supposed to be like a rollout and play on words.
Well, I mean, at the time, you had explained so well, like, oh, I'm gonna coincide the show with the album. They're gonna co-promote each other, and I just saw a good thing coming. I was like, I'm gonna get the rub. I need to just jump on that train right there.
Which is funny because it ended up kind of inadvertently doing that with your project. You know what I mean? Which I mean, it was it's just one of those things where now it's like it's been so fun. I mean, in the first couple of years too, just like kind of doing what you do, like and going out to events, talking to people, trying to get content, and that was a whole nother thing. Like, it's one thing to be to perform in front of a crowd full of people. I won't say it's easy, but I guess I was used to it, right? But then to actually have to like humble myself and be like, oh, I'm on the ground floor with a bunch of people that do a lot of the same thing, and I'm trying to like really pick people's brains, and it was a real, like, I had to get over myself and really get my social balls to me, so to speak. Yeah, it was one of those things where I kind of had to get on a one-on-one basis as opposed to, oh, I could rock this part of the crowd, and if not, I'll walk back over. No, I got it. I mean, like, and then if not, I got this guy, my tag partner, to be the rock star to, in between. Okay, I'll get him. You know what I mean? But it was just depending on me a lot of times. So I don't know. This thing it turned into a lot more than I thought it was going to be, especially for me, a little bit therapeutic as well. Finding myself in a lot more different situations. Again, we'll get into it, but with the music, my brother has been a little bit more like the spearhead that goes into stuff, and I just trust him. You know what I mean? This was a little bit different because I had to kind of do it on my own, get that confidence of knowing what I'm doing, and getting these guys to be like, hey man, like, yeah, we're on for the ride too, man. So it's been a crazy ride, and again, dude, it's just fun. It's just been real fun. Frustrating at times.
I was gonna ask Doc, since you guys are brothers, and it's his name on the show. Has there ever been a moment where he was like, I want to do A, B, and C, and you're like, no, it's D, E, F, not A, B, C?
Yeah. What I like about my brother is, like, he's very open to ideas, but at the same time, when he's got a specific vision, he does try to stick to his guns. But at the same time, that usually is because he has not entertained maybe a different perspective. So one thing I've learned about my brother is he really values my perspective on things. And I'm not always right, but we've only really have ever had, I would say, like, maybe one thing that's like, I don't think we've ever had this heated conversation about a disagreement on the show. We've had something outside the show stop me from being on the show for a moment, but that was more about just brotherly stuff than it was. It wasn't anything, and it had nothing to do with the show. Just in a nutshell, we just needed some time away from each other. I think at the time we were at two different points of our lives. Like, that's the thing about the show that I love too, is it's not just twins that are kind of have different personalities that give different perspectives or opinions. We have different lives, he's not to throw his business out, but like, I know he's more independent and he's single, and he has more time than I do. I'm married, I'm about to start a family, I got a dog, we were talking about that before we went live. We have different things on our individual plates. So I think we bring that to the table too, where, and I think that also opens up the doors for different types of listeners, because you got the lapsed fans, the young fans, and everything in between. But I think it just all makes for a good show. I mean, I think the only thing that usually happens a lot is we'll talk about the format of the show hours before, the day before, right before. Yeah. And then we'll go live, and then it goes right out the window. And it's usually because we'll start on a good energy where the stuff we're supposed to remember, or we're not. We go, you know what? Instead of doing this scripted thing, we're just gonna throw it out the window and just go off the dome. And it still makes for a good show, but it'll definitely make the time restraints. Like we're really bad with time management on that show sometimes, but we get passionate, and that's why people listen.
I think the only other time that we've had an argument is when we're like trying to figure out the name of the episode too.
Yeah, but that's awesome, Mike.
That's the hardest part. That is the hardest part. And now what I'm trying to incorporate with us is I tell the guys, if somebody says something really funny, write it down. And then that'll be the title.
See, and then we always say, hey, wait, well, you said that one thing, like, I'm trying to remember. And then I usually produce it. So I'll like go through. I'm like, that's the one. That was it. And then I'll text him. He's like, yep, do it. That's it. And we're like, yeah. Signed, still delivered. We're done.
It used to be, let's try to use a play on words or some sort of adage, based on something that's topical in the news, in the wrestling news or headlines. And then it just was like, okay, dude, we can't keep doing this for more than a year. I was surprised we went 2 years doing that, but it became more about,
remember we were like
with the random comment that is like, okay, I need to know what context that's being said in, and it was kind of like,
but then also more times than not, we're like, wait, did we already use this one already? Because there were times where we try to do the play on words. We're like, I felt like we already named this one, and we had to go back and check.
You run into circles doing that for sure. Yeah.
Well, in the beginning, what I was doing, I was trying to just come up with ridiculous, like they were wrestling type things. Like I think the first episode, I named it the Faux Horseman, like FAUX.
Oh, okay.
Fake Four Horsemen. I'm just looking at some of these titles now. When all the name things were happening, where people were changing names left and right, we were naming shows like The Name Game. I was the only one of the four of us that went to WrestleMania in Dallas this year, so it was like the stupendous Dallas vacation, like just coming up with just ridiculous names. Like when one of us was out, I was like, it's the new Triple Threat. That. So naming the shows is hard. And your most recent episode, it was a Barry Horowitz reference, which was awesome because he did Dark Side of the Ring.
Dude,
exactly.
By the way, I love your Triple Threat reference, especially with your Pittsburgh roots for sure. I mean, for those that don't know, I mean, like, that didn't go over my head. I just want you to know. But the Barry Horowitz, like, I remember watching that. I was like, why does that look like? And then when I saw the lower thirds, I'm like, no way, Barry. And I literally said it out loud. I'm like, that's the title. That has to.
I love how it said like classic Jewish wrestler, and I'm like, I know who that is, but
that Dark Side of the Ring parody was so well done.
That was yeah.
I was at a get together and it was on, but I wasn't able to watch it till later that night, and I'm like, oh, this is genius. So I know I said, well, we weren't really going to talk too much about the current product. This is more about you guys, but now we're talking about the current product. So AEW's been around a couple years, and for me, I think it's great. It's a great alternative to WWE. I'm a WWE guy. I mean, I got Triple H here, WrestleMania 1 poster here.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a WWE guy. But with AEW, it's a fun alternative. It's a different show to watch. But my issue is they signed too many guys. They got Swerve and Keith Lee, and they're on Dark.
Yeah.
Like,
or even
or just they're just always on Rampage. Yeah.
I was gonna say they're like Rampage specific, and it's tough because they're stars. Like both those guys got great charisma, and it's just tough because I like Rampage. I think a lot of people kind of down Rampage because of the time limit. I kind of like that it's an hour. It reminds me of old school NXT where you got to just get as much as you can in that hour, and even ECW for that matter when it was on TNN.
True.
Before, before it was Spike and whatever, was it Paramount now? But it's like one of those things where I kind of like the less is more approach. That's why I always thought when NXT went 2 hours, it started to suffer a bit or got exposed a bit is probably the best way to. You realize, okay, not everyone's on the same caliber as a Johnny Gargano or whoever. They got, the workhorses weren't as widespread as you thought, you know what I'm saying? But I like that the, Rampage is just, I don't know if it's doing exactly what they want it to do. They had that big death match the other night, which I thought was okay. Well, this is clearly for viewership, because I can't remember the last time they did a world title match or a title match that wasn't the FTW title or the tag team title. But I agree. I think they have a lot of guys on the board. We talk about this a lot. Our third guy, or part-timer, to say on the show, Mark.
yeah.
He always
part-time
talks
talent, whatever.
You got that Brock Lesnar schedules.
Yeah, exactly. Or the new Roman Reigns schedule, right?
Yeah, that's true, right?
He always talks about the log jam that is
Yeah.
the roster. And on one end, you could go, well, he's got ROHs to worry about, and he's got to fill those, that roster too. But the only person I've seen he's done that with is Tully and Jay Lethal and Brian Cage. And I haven't seen a full-fledged transference or laterals of some guys that could probably benefit from being on a different show then, because it's clearly he has too much. He doesn't have enough room for everybody. And the women's division already suffers a bit, but I agree. Going back to the original point, guys like Keith Lee and Swerve are kind of wasted when you just have them come out on the ramp instead of like come out for a match on a 2-hour show that is Dynamite. I mean, I don't think we've seen Keith Lee in a match or Swerve since I think Lee had that match against not the Joker, but he was like the Joker for the ladder match months back when he debuted. And then Swerve had like a debut match, and we haven't seen him since.
We haven't seen him on Dynamite since, because I know
Dynamite.
Swerve had a Owen Hart qualifier against
with Darby.
Yeah,
that was an unbelievable match.
Yeah, they had a great match. Yeah,
but it makes you go, why don't we see more Swerve that's not backstage or on stage?
It's I think that the other problem with, I feel like they snatch, like Tony tries to snatch people up that they just drop off, like WWE, releases. Because, he doesn't want them to go, but there's nowhere else for them to go.
Yeah. I joke that Tony's AEW is his fig fed. There's his toy. He gets all the wrestling collection. He gets all the wrestling figures. Sadly, here's what we joke about a lot. Look, we know that Jade Cargill is relatively new to the business.
Yeah.
She's the TBS champ, but never wrestles on TBS.
Ever.
She can't wrestle on live TV yet. She's not ready.
I've been wondering, I'm like, why is it that the TBS championship is always on TNT more than it is on TBS?
And the TNT title's on TBS more than it is on TNT.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's like, I don't understand. I don't understand it either. But like, I think the other problem is that Tony has his favorites too. Mm-hmm. And to play out what you were saying, Doc, like there are people who would have a better benefit of being on a show like Rampage. I guess, like, first of all, we got to figure out what the hell Rampage is supposed to be. Like you said, you don't know if it's doing what it's supposed to be, what's supposed to be doing. We don't even know what it's supposed to be doing.
Yeah, because I think people thought it was supposed to be WCW Thunder.
I suppose.
I enjoy just getting another hour or so of wrestling in the week, Yeah,
but it was like, if every day is wrestling, then I'm happy. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
But I think because he has his favorites, he'll put his favorites more on Dynamite. Like, I don't have anything against a guy like Dante Martin, but dude, this guy's on TV like almost every week, where he should be probably more on Rampage. And he used to be more on Rampage, but he used to put Orange on a lot. I mean, I'm not against Orange Cassidy. I get the popularity, but like him beating Adam Cole kind of just.
No, I get what you're saying. You'd rather see a personality like that used on a Rampage than like someone.
There's a lot. I mean, like, another great example is like the Blondes. They should be more on like a Rampage.
Varsity Blondes, yeah.
You know what I mean?
They have a good gimmick and a good look, but there's too much, and there's a lot. What's that saying? 10 pounds and 10 pounds of shit in a 5-pound bag, or whatever that saying is. I don't know. I think that, like, I know I sound negative about AEW, and that's not the case all the time. I want more. We joke, sign more guys. That's Tony's war cry, but. Sooner or later, we don't know what Ring of Honor is going to be. The fact that it's always Ring of Honor, Samoa Joe's the ROH TV champ or whatever champ he is for Ring of Honor. And, they had Deonna Purrazzo on a couple weeks ago against Mercedes Martinez, and that match was fucking awesome.
Yeah,
fucking awesome. And I don't know what Deanna's impact, contract is.
Yeah, I'm not too sure either. But if they'd be stupid to let her go, geez.
Yeah, the women's division has been so mishandled, and a lot of people think that Candice LeRae is going to be the Joker, but I don't know how many months from a child.
If not her, maybe Ember Moon. I don't know who else is out there, because Mia Yim already signed with Impact, so I don't know who else it could be.
Yeah,
so.
And then
they might share her though. I mean, she might have one of those contracts because we just saw. I know Morrissey is on a handshake deal with Impact, but he just walked on, had that match with Wardlow a couple weeks ago too. We've seen Impact guys come and go. So who knows? Maybe it could be Yim, but I didn't hear LeRae as Joker, but that's interesting because I know Gargano's been his name.
He's been teased as well.
Yeah, exactly.
It's going to be Lana, guys. It's Lana.
And they're both Gargano and LeRae. They're both into the comic world, and
yeah, that's true.
They could, that would if they could. They were both the Joker
with the Joker. Yeah, I could see that. See, the question is Johnny a Marvel or a DC guy?
He's a big Marvel guy. I mean, all this year's been Marvel.
He's like, I can't go DC.
But like, I think
you're working for Warner Brothers now, buddy.
I was just getting ready to say there's a Warner tie.
Yeah.
So much fun. So
better get your fill.
I was gonna say though, just kind of what you said, Jason, is like you said, TK's kind of like a collector. They say, man, true collectors got to have them on. That's how it feels.
Yeah. Like it's almost like he wants them, so no one else can have them. Almost the same how people say that about
WWE.
Yeah. So, but
like you said, it's not a hate. I think it's just like
it's realization. It's observation.
We want it to thrive, and we kind of identify the same concern we have with WCW years ago, where it's just bloated. And I know some people believe, like, is that what WWE's strategy is right now? Is to let go of people, so they'll take the bait, and then they get lost in the shuffle again. So then, by the time they're let go again, they could pay him. A lot of people think it's a long-term deal, but it's not. We can't say it hasn't worked before, but they're not competition, so who knows?
I think the next year in AEW is going to be interesting because of the original contracts expiring.
Yeah.
A couple weeks ago, I said that I feel that Jon Moxley's going to end up at back in WWE, and it's going to be a Shield triple threat at WrestleMania next year. That's the only way you close out Sunday night, and the guys on my show all laugh me out of the building. And them motherfuckers better hope I'm wrong, because if I'm right, I am never letting them hear the end of it. Not at all.
Hey guys, by the way, this is the Wrestling Podcast. You heard about the time where I predicted in a whole year ahead?
So we had a thing about Cody. I was 52-48 that Cody was going to go to AEW.
I was the same.
And I'm like, better hope I'm wrong. I mean, I was wrong, and I'm glad Cody is back in WWE. But I ate some humble pie because I didn't think Cody would look like a star next to Roman and Rollins, and I was dead wrong.
Yeah,
dead wrong.
Yeah.
So we'll transition into WWE. So with Cody going over, what did you guys think of Cody showing up? I mean, it wasn't a surprise, but
it made it real. I told what I did. Like me and my brother were the same cloth. Like we tend not to run with what the buzz is. Like, we'll wait till the smoke clears and make our own decision. You know what I mean? So when all this stuff was running rampant, Wade Keller was saying all these stories, and you're hearing a bunch of stuff from different people. I told my buddy, I was like, until he shows up on a screen that has a WWE logo on the corner, dude, I'm just not going to believe it. And if it happens, it happens. That's fine. And if not, then that's fine too. And I mean, to me, it just kind of just sealed the deal. It didn't really bother me, but it made me say, okay, game on. So what's the next move after this? You know what I mean? Like I'm interested now. I mean, that has me watching Raw again just for him. I'll say that, but I
what happened is that I think his return would get more eyes back on the product. I mean, and I don't know, me personally, Quincy, I'm the resident Rhodes family advocate.
No, he's a huge fan of all of them for sure, 100%.
When I hate, some of those promos, like, I'll be honest, I'm not biased. I know when things aren't the best in terms of how they're delivered and things like that. But I know when I heard about it, I was a little split because on one hand, I thought it was just going to be a money thing. Oh, him and TK will patch it up. No big deal, And then when it started, like the wheel started getting more moss on it, I got a little concerned because I think I was looking at it from an outward perception. Like I could understand, hey, my father worked at WWE. I want to go back there. And we've even talked about it, I think even just yesterday, Quincy, that, he does have that big match style that although it used to differentiate his presentation on a show that's like has different types of people in AEW Dynamite, and it would stand out almost. It also feels like those matches kind of belong in the WWE scope, because as much as they would stand out, they also sometimes would stand out for the wrong reasons, where it'd be like, oh, there's always this kind of spot, or he always gets busted. He got to fly through a table or something like that. But besides that, I think I was more concerned with his outside perception, because it's the guy who, he said it recently that AEW doesn't exist without him. And he like flew the flag so unforgivingly, with the Ontario Revolution over there, across
I mean, even the shots he was taking, you were thinking, oh, there's no going back for him. Like this is it. Like he's going all in on himself.
Yeah, exactly. The throne breaker stuff, the pot shots, the Twitter stuff, never, and a lot of people even said that, like, in the beginning, the VPs were at odds in the sense where they weren't trying to, I think Omega said it, we weren't trying to make it a war, but, Cody kind of poured the gas on that fire,
Oh, you're talking about the Wednesday Night War. Yeah.
And you can kind of like, was kind of leading the charge on that a little bit. So it just felt weird to see the guy who was holding that gas can, like, come back to the, the place he tried to burn down, and so I think that's what I was more worried about is he going to get booed out the building by WWE faithful? Because, we've seen how loyal fans can.
It wasn't like that at all, though.
Yeah,
nope. I was there. The place went crazy.
And again, that they know, but like for it to actually happen and it's the whole like because even for weeks you saw WWE fans, when's Cody coming? But when it's AEW, like, God, Cody's on TV again. Like, you know what I mean? It was so weird. It was like this bizarro world. And then so it's almost like I feel like he did make the right decision for himself. You know what I mean? Which is fine. Like, I don't pay this guy's bills, you know what I mean? But at the same time, I did have this this conspiracy theory that he's just gonna go back later. Like he's just gonna win the title once, just so he can go back and say, so Tony, now that I am a former world champion, I think I'm worth the money now, right? Like, you know what I mean? So
So with a quick one word answer, yes or no. When NXT and AEW were on at the same time, was it a war, Quincy?
No.
Doc?
I think it had.
Yes or no? Yes or no?
Yeah, I had to keep it at no because I had to say because no, it's just a no. I got to say I got to cut it. Yeah.
I think what it is it was war-ish at times, but it wasn't consistently a war the entire time.
It was counter programming, is what it was.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm the only one that said not a war, because it's not a war until they're both talking about each other on TV.
Yeah,
AEW was like the little brother, like picking. Like, no, I'm not touching you. I'm not touching you. Like, and then waiting for NXT to respond, and they hardly did, if ever. So
the main. I mean, really did it before NXT did. I think.
Yeah. I mean, if it wasn't Triple H or like what Sami Zayn mentioned him once, but that wasn't even like in derogatory term. Like
brought up Miz being brought up one time. Remember, I think when Punk called MJF.
Edge said it. Yeah, but I don't know. I think pro wrestling is in an amazing place right now, which I know isn't. I'm not breaking any like world record by saying that, but. I want to move on to some other stuff you guys are involved with. So where can people get the show? When does it come out? Let's get all the information about the Quincy Jones show.
It comes out every Friday. You can get it on Castbox. It's on Pandora. It's on Spotify, SoundCloud, iTunes, and local. I won't say local, but they're a station in Orange County. There's this radio station called True100Radio.com. They have a bunch of different shows, different music that they play. So we have a scheduled release on there every Friday as well. I believe it's at noon.
Okay.
So, that's pretty much. I mean, is there? I don't think I'm missing anything, right, Doug?
Are you guys doing anything on YouTube or anything?
We used to do some stuff, but not as much anymore. It's more about scheduling. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I don't ever mind doing the editing and all that stuff, but. We've done a few like review back in the day, but not so much. I mean, it was more a lot of like me documenting like the trips I would take to go to different events. I've done a few interviews on there as well, but
you got Flow.
Yeah, I do. I do have my other show called The Flow. It's for Flow Show for the love of wrestling. We only get together like every 2 weeks. But that one's like on YouTube. Yeah, it was kind of like similar. You know, it's usually three of us, me, myself, my buddy Mac, who's actually going to be expecting pretty soon. So congrats to him. And as well as my buddy Brian. So, but then that's like it's every 2 week thing, just because we're like, yeah, man, because they choose not to watch main roster stuff. It's like sometimes I do, because it's something that we have to sometimes address on the Quincy Jones show. So we just kind of wait. We're like, yeah, if we wait a week, I'm sure something's gonna happen, kind of thing. So I'm like, yeah, no pressure.
Let's talk hip hop. Let's talk.
Sure.
I mean, a lot of people wouldn't believe I like hip hop, but growing up, I remember when The Chronic came out.
Oof.
I was in high school, and it was the biggest thing ever. I mean, I know I'm older than you guys, but Doc, you put out a song that is in my regular rotation, the Hip Hop Hybrid. An ode to Triple H. It's all about Triple H. I don't even know how to properly. I don't want to disrespect by saying one thing and the other, but let's talk about the Hip Hop Hybrid first, and then we'll get into some more general talk.
Honestly, I love this because I remember the last time we actually met. It was right when I was dropping that single, and get a lot of extra ears on that, so I appreciate that. But Hip Hop Hybrid, that's like a moniker I created for myself. Because it's apt, and Quincy, there's not a lot of times I found myself where either someone supplied a beat, I'm going through beats, a beat is forced upon me, I'm at a cypher, whatever. There's not many things I'm afraid to approach as an artist, because I'm very much let me just try and fail before I say I can't do that, and whether it's doing hip hop, I've done a short leg with rock. I had a rock band. I did it where I had hip hop with a live band. I've been to rock shows. I've done a lot of different things. I've collaborated with a lot of different artists.
Written for R&B artists. Like, he's done a lot of different stuff.
And if not that, if one thing I've always heard at any hole in the wall bar show that I've done, it's always a guy who's half tilted drunk, but he hears me and he's got to let me know first. I am not a fan of hip hop. I am not. And so I started realizing.
But that shit right there, man, I got to shake your hand. Yeah. It's always something like that, right? Yeah, it's like, I don't really listen to hip hop, but dude, I would listen to that. Yeah, it's fun. Yeah.
Also notice I can garner a good response from both underground hip hop and mainstream hip hop fans. So that's kind of where the Hip Hop Hybrid moniker really branched from. Then, of course, there's a parallel of it's 3 H's, and my brother and I, we have a very dope chemistry. Obviously, we're twins, but I was like trying to squelch it earlier. We still, even though we're twins, we still kind of have this dynamic of older and younger brother a little bit, or maybe it's just being protective of each other because we've always had.
It's like that, yeah.
And so a lot of times you get like the Method Man, Red Man type of chemistry.
Oh yeah, okay.
Right, or as we love it, the Sean and Hunter. I will always.
Okay. But yeah, in particular, the Triple H thing, that's I was like, when I remember when he brought that to me, I'm like, that's ingenious. Like, and because I know what it meant to him more.
Yeah.
And so I was like, dude, that's awesome.
I thought it was super smart. I thought it was just so well done because of all the mentions. I thought it was great. I'm not just saying that because you're here, but I've told people about it. The guys on my show, they like hip hop, but not to the extreme. They're more rock guys. Yeah. And being wrestling fans and stuff, I thought it was cool. Have you put out any other wrestling? Well, first off, are there? Or it's not all wrestling songs, right? Like
you do. So what I like about the projects, the album that was on was called "This Is Awesome," which you're a wrestling fan, that speaks to your soul, And the reason why it's called that, it's spelled OSYM. That's the name of the producer who's actually my cousin who produced I think it's 7 tracks on there. So gotcha. I always knew I was going to kind of have that turn of phrase, like this is awesome, but it's mostly because it's all the same producer who's made all this music with me. And so this was more, don't get me wrong, like I've always had little gems here and there, maybe 1 or 2 wrestling references and songs, but not to the degree that I took on this project. And the project was really like a like a love letter of mine to just kind of like, you know, I guess it's more of a tribute to the wrestling business. Like my brother said, a lot of people who have known us, whether it's personally through a shoot name or as our characters, Quincy and Doc, they know one thing through and through is that we are wrestling fans. You know, that's something that shines on both sides. And so, yeah, man, I think it's one of those things where I had fun showcasing that. But what I liked about the way I went about it is, like you said, there are references, but if you listen to it and you're not a wrestling fan, you can still get the lines. So like, as I've always said, when I explain this project, and even that song in particular, what I like about that is that there's something for everyone, because if you're not a fan, then you still get to enjoy the music and you can understand what's being said. But if you are a fan, you kind of get a twofer, you know, where you're like, oh, you know, and that's exactly like your reaction right now about the references. That's what I do this for, you know, because, you know, the ones that know, and then the ones that don't know, they still get a little something. So, yeah.
And all of your music, it's on Spotify or Apple Music or any of those streaming sources. Tidal,
Apple Music, like I always say on the show, anywhere you like to search for your favorite artist, which is me. You just don't know it yet. Go to the search bar, type in DOCLESNAR, their IR with 5-star bars for you and yours, as I like to say on the show.
Sometimes we'll put it to bump in your cars from here to Mars.
Yeah, but no, Spotify, iTunes, Tidal, Apple Music, Amazon, anywhere that TikTok, Instagram, anywhere you can use music, you're gonna find music.
Yeah, I mean, you can put it in your stories for Instagram, like you said. Yeah,
it's nice. So I'm gonna ask you something. I'm really embarrassed to be asking this now. I said it the other night, like, I'm going to talk to them and I'm going to ask them this. I feel embarrassed for you to ask this.
No.
When I got into radio, there were two things I wanted to do.
Okay.
I wanted to have a sandwich named after me.
Okay.
It was a chicken sandwich that had like pizza toppings on it.
Okay.
And then the second one was to do.
Wait, hold on. You can't just glance over. That sounds delicious. Hold on.
I was gonna say, I like that.
I thought about it as you said it. I was like, that sounds great.
Is this trademark pending? Because
no, it's not. It's not. So on the East Coast, there's a place called Sheetz. Are you guys familiar?
No.
It's a gas station, convenience store where they make food. Everything's touchscreen. You order your food direct.
Oh, nice. Okay.
I haven't seen anything like that out here on the West.
I was gonna like maybe Sonics, maybe like when you at the park first.
No. This is like nothing like Sonic. So,
I didn't think so. Yeah.
So you go in, you order your food, and you can, so literally, I would get chicken sandwich, and my toppings would be pizza sauce, pepperoni, mozzarella cheese, which essentially is a chicken parm. I get that.
I was just about to say, but that sounds great.
But a chicken parm sandwich sounds awesome.
Yeah, so
I've never heard of that.
Yeah. So there was that, and then the second thing. This is why I'm embarrassed. I can't even believe I'm saying this. I always wanted to do a feature on a rap song.
Oh,
is there any way we can make this happen?
I believe so. I don't
know how to do it, but I don't know if I need music first or if I need lyrics first or. I don't know. How does it work?
Are we talking about?
Will probably come first.
Okay.
I would say.
Oh yeah. Are you talking about music? You're talking about doing a skit? You're talking about what?
I don't know. I mean, I always, I don't need 16 bars, but like, give me 4. I don't know. I just, like I said, I'm not too knowledgeable on.
No, I love it. He said, give me 4.
I mean, I'm not knowledgeable of current hip hop. Like, I listened to the new Kendrick record that came out a couple days ago.
I got it loaded up. I haven't heard that.
The production is insane on that album.
Oh, I gotta listen to it. Okay.
And I listened to the recent Jack Harlow record that came out. But for me, like my favorite hip hop records are "Fear of a Black Planet" by Public Enemy, "Raising Hell" by Run DMC.
Okay.
My favorite, and a lot of people look down on me when I say this, but if you listen to the record, every song is unbelievable. Mama Said Knock You Out by LL Cool J. It's an amazing record. And I know you're both like, you're crazy.
No. I'm not going to look at you like you're crazy. Because in real time, he would have crushed me like a jelly bean because he's bad. But I always had to separate LL the actor, LL the I Can Love You Better rapper from the Smash Mouth, I always have to remember he used to be that guy, you know what I mean? But then he went and did what he had to do.
to be honest, he grew up in a pretty pro LL Cool J household, though.
That's true. That's true.
Okay.
In your house, yeah.
But that record though, like, of course, Mama Said Knock You Out. It's on there, but like Farmers Boulevard, Milky Cereal is one of my favorites. It's the corniest song ever, but it just makes me laugh. So like,
but a lot of that stuff gets sampled now. Like even like Buster, like I'm just getting warm. I mean, he took that from Mom. You know what I mean? So yeah,
that's my favorite record of all time. But yeah, I would love to do a feature if that's even possible. Maybe we can work on that down the road.
Yeah, definitely. Yes.
But let's talk about you, Quincy. What's your favorite rap albums? Give me 2 or 3.
Oh man, of all time, Chronic 2001 for sure. Albums, man, it's kind of hard, man, because like I like listening to a lot of different artists. Mm-hmm. Like people, like I feel like this. Like one of the most recent albums I think is great. Post Malone's last album, and I know I get like they're like, what? That's part of the new. No, I'm like, dude, like you said, there's some albums where if you could play every song and you can hear every song on the radio, you're like, that's a pretty good album. You know what I mean? Yeah. J-Rock, Kendrick, those are some of my favorites for sure. Schoolboy Q, he's another influence that I mean, anyone from TDE. Man, I miss Jadakiss, Kiss the Gang Goodbye. Joe Budden, self-titled. What am I missing? I know I'm missing a big one.
I'm about to say,
DMX, Dark Hell is Hot.
I was just listening to that this week.
My Flesh of My Flesh, Blood of My Blood, another great one. Jay-Z. Hey, I'd be
everything Jay-Z.
Yeah. I mean, and the thing is, my brother's a huge Jay-Z fan, but I just heard some old shit that he did last. I was playing some old stuff. I'm like, man, I haven't heard this song in a while. And I'm like, yo, this verse, I gotta send the doc. I forgot about this one, you know. So you know what? One of my favorite albums, and this is not even me blowing smoke. Audio Visual by my brother, under Mad Dog. That's a you asked him earlier about the hip hop hybrid thing.
Yeah.
If I had to send you an audio reason why he's the hip hop hybrid, it's that album.
Yeah, you're right.
That album, top to bottom.
And that's probably what spawned that for sure. Yeah.
And what about you, Doc? Give me a couple of your favorites.
Yeah, like you said, I'm a huge Jay-Z head. So Blueprint, Jay-Z, that's like one of my favorites. I do love the Black Album as well, although I was kind of like, but if you weren't going to stay gone, why'd you come back? But I'd be lying if I didn't say he's dropped phenomenal verses since he's been back. So we'll go ahead and sweep that under the rug.
What did you think of the Jay-Z Unplugged record?
Oh, that's
bro.
That is a classic.
Yeah, watching it and then owning the audio.
Yeah,
like it's just. Yes, I mean,
it was dark.
Yeah,
it was a dark moment. Oh man, yeah, that was Jaguar, right? And then he had the Roots on key. Oh man,
yeah. And you know what? Woo. The one he did, the mashup he did with Linkin Park, I really enjoyed.
That was pretty good. Yeah, that's pretty good.
I listened to that on the treadmill. That's like a 35-minute record. That's perfect for a warm-up.
Where's my cappuccino?
Have you guys ever seen they did a live performance of that at the Roxy.
I heard about that. Yeah,
I believe it's on YouTube. Like, because they did a making of document. Because it was
I remember the documentary. Yeah,
and then they did. I believe the last part of that documentary was the live performance at the Roxy.
Man, that's badass.
It's years ago. This is before I lived in LA and stuff like that.
And Chester probably obviously still here. So man, I want to go back and watch that.
I love the Jay-Z Unplugged record. A lot of people don't even like I said, it's not. It's not hip hop, but I loved every part of it. I love the Unplugged series.
That's my thing. I'm always like, I kind of get up in the air when people say that because I always felt like hip hop is very subjective. It's a culture versus I think a genre.
Okay. Yeah.
And I think a lot of people try to frame hip hop as rap singularly, and I just don't believe that. Because. To me, I like exactly what you said. Like, I think it's weird that someone would think, "Oh, the Jay-Z Unplugged album is not a hip hop album." It's like, dude, that's live music, but it's hip hop. Like,
it's almost like it's like when comedians have a live set on a CD.
Yeah, or it's like
what I'm saying. Like,
it's like remember when Tupac was live at the House of Blues?
Yeah, that's a great record too.
I mean, so many that it's not there anymore. But it's like if someone said, "Oh, they got the audio of that," and said, "Oh, this isn't hip hop," but it's like. It is. It's the song, Big Pimpin'. All the songs that Jay-Z's known for.
I was gonna say he performed all the hits,
but with instruments. That's crazy. But I felt like I remember when Kanye did 808s and Heartbreak, and I could listen to that album all the way through, But a lot of people are like, oh, that's not hip hop. I'm like, well, I just think it's a dope album. It's like,
Yeah.
I think it's whatever you interpret it to be.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think when people come off, I think is the creatives. You know what I'm saying? Ones that want to do more than just be on the radio. I think that comes off like when it's not as simplistic as it's just rap or whatever. I think that's when people kind of go, I don't know if that's hip hop. You know, like a guy like Kid Cudi is always on different sides of the spectrum, but it's like, but he, you know, I think there's different modes that you could zone out to guys like that. And
it's crazy because, you know, you got those people that are like, well, you know who the blues came from, but then as soon as they hear like guitars or anything, like, you know what I mean, they're just like, that's not hip hop. I'm like, bro, like it could be whatever it is. I mean,
I'll be honest, I only get that way is if I hear like a blatant, like, remember when Khaled came out with that song? I think it was Wild Thoughts.
Yeah. Oh, with the Carlos Santana.
Yeah, and Rob
Thomas.
Like,
yeah.
And no one, I think it bothers me when samples are so blatantly used, and it's like,
that's what's going on now.
Yeah, but it's like
so much
that it's popular with have no idea that song existed prior to that recording, and I think that's what I think is my big thing. Where it's like hip hop's about sharing the history and passing it on. And I feel like that is kind of missing, you know, like
I agree.
The crates era is gone a little bit, you know, for like the modern fan.
That's the small part of the world where I actually feel like the quote unquote boomer, so to speak, is when I'm like, no, you don't know where this is from.
Mm-hmm.
No, this is people that think that there's original records out on the radio right now. I'm like, dude, this is crazy.
Yeah.
See, I my first rap I was in radio and I was working like top 40 in rock radio. The first hip hop concert I went to and it won me over was the Up in Smoke tour in 2000. Cool. Dre, Snoop.
I would have loved to be there.
There's a DVD release. You can probably find it on YouTube.
I've watched it. That's what I'm saying. We've watched that DVD.
Yeah.
To be there, that's a whole nother man.
And I feel like we just launched the first episode of that hip hop podcast. I'll see if that's handled.
It is what it is.
It is what it is.
I've kept you guys here long enough, man. I really appreciate you guys doing this. One more thing before we go. What's your opinion on Kanye West? Everyone, he's a polarizing figure for sure.
If you heard, he wasn't on my list of albums.
Okay,
I'll jump in. I didn't.
Yeah.
What I'll say is because we kind of went all over the board, so I didn't get to throw all my favorite albums in, but.
Oh yeah, okay.
Kanye
Sorry about that.
Is a guy. No, it's all good. I love the conversation. Kanye is a guy. I've always said this, and I've maintained. I'll always enjoy Kanye artistically, but personally, there's some work that needs to be done. And I probably have changed that part because it used to be personally, I don't care for him, you know. But then I think the world didn't know that there was some sort. You know, it was bipolar, I believe, is. And
his mom died.
Yeah, exactly.
Surgery. I mean,
right, and all that on a public. He's got to deal with that on a public type of. I mean, I think on one end he probably doesn't have to deal with it publicly, but he's Kanye, so he's kind of got to. You know, he puts his platform out, and so I just think, man, as long as he takes care of himself, that's fine. But artistically, I got no complaints for that guy. You know,
I love The College Dropout. Love it. To this day, I'll still listen to it. I love it.
That's one of my. I love College Dropout.
Up to Yeezus. When Yeezus came out, I couldn't do it.
I like Graduation as well. I mean, for me, Kanye, it's I'm kind of off him as far as listening to his music. Like going out of my way to listen to his music. I'll hear it on the radio, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's kind of cool. But before I would be like, oh, Kanye's on this. Kanye has this feature. Kanye, you know what I mean? Now this is like, because I feel like he does have certain things he wants to get off his chest and he thinks it's going to help, but there's just certain ways that he goes about it that either are unhealthy or are severely detrimental to everybody else. Yeah. You know what I mean? So like, that's kind of what the same thing where I'm like, hey man, I mean, don't get me, if I saw him at an airport and he was giving away free money, I'm gonna walk up to him and get the money. You know what I mean? But I'm like,
deep down, I think a lot of it's calculated. Like, I think he's pretty smart. I mean,
you know what?
But then you marry one of the most famous women in the world. You're not gonna have any more privacy. And I mean, I don't know, man.
And not just the married her, kind of marries into the biggest like famous
the
family.
The zoo, you know?
And there's so much going on in that family. whether it's orchestrated for reality TV and what's not, what we don't see. I can't imagine. So
they just launched, the Kardashians just launched their second show. The one on He's Gone, the one on Hulu. I watch it, and I didn't realize this one seems to be a little more because they swear now. There's no edits, a lot of it. Okay. And I guess for a while he was styling Kim, even up to this SNL performance. I mean, I don't know. And as far as him buying the laptop that had the sex tape on it, I don't know what's real, but
exactly.
It's a lot of it. I feel like a lot of it's calculated that he's pretty smart, but if there is something seriously going on, man, we just want you to get better. And
it's I don't want to judge too hard, but I don't know I don't know, man. I just don't know if I'd be out here trying to drag the new boyfriend of my baby's mother.
And when it's Pete Davidson,
so hard.
Maybe that's why, because it's Pete Davidson and not
He's like, what do you mean? What do you mean you're not with God? You know what I mean? Yeah. It's just because to him, it had to be somebody who's up to his standard, right? But it's a comedian. I brought this guy around you. Yeah, he's probably you know what I mean. I
think it's funny because but
it's that same thing you were talking about earlier with the war. If the little brother keeps badgering you and you don't respond.
Yeah,
I mean, what is Pete supposed to do?
Well, he did respond low key at the Chappelle and Friends.
The Netflix thing.
Yeah, not too long ago.
But that's what he's a comedian. That's his forum. But I mean, what is he? What else? He's rapping. He's rapping about him. What is he gonna do?
Well, but then then when Pete responded, Kanye said something, and Pete said, "Yeah, I'm in your wife's bed right now."
Yeah, I saw that.
That's some heavy shit right there.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean,
it's ironic to me because there's if you're a fan of Pete Davidson, I think he was on Jimmy Kimmel, and he told this story about randomly going to a restaurant for Kanye's birthday, and that was years ago. So it's kind of funny, the company you keep. You know what I'm saying? Because it's a very small degree of separation. When I found out,
they got a lot of pictures together, group, different events of them hanging out. Yeah,
but I will say though, it is a crazy universe to think, oh, a guy like Pete Davidson can get it. Okay.
Good for him.
I mean, you got Machine Gun Kelly and Megan Fox.
Post-pandemic world,
Yeah.
Oh man, I mean,
all right, that's the end of that hip hop podcast. No,
I was just gonna say, as long as they're not drinking each other's blood, like Megan and Machine Gun Kelly, I think they'll be just fine. Just
all right. Again, man, I appreciate you both. Doc, where can people find you on social media?
Yes, sir. I am the Hip Hop Hybrid, the only one in existence in the worlds of pro wrestling and hip hop. Doc Lesnar at Doc Lesnar on TikTok, Instagram, and of course Mercari as well. Come get your taste of wrestling memorabilia and merch. I got that for sale. Other than that, find me at Doc_KJS Pod on Instagram for all things Quincy Jones Show, and of course I'm Doc Lesnar. That's on Twitter and Facebook.
Quincy.
You can find me at Quincy Jones Go everywhere on Facebook, Twitter, as well as Instagram. But you can also follow us on the show for Quincy Jones Show at The Quincy Jones Show on Instagram, at Quincy Jones Show on Twitter, and / The Quincy Jones Show on Facebook. And we're also on TikTok as well as at The Quincy Jones Show. That's pretty much it.
Gentlemen, I appreciate your time.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you having us.
Thank you for listening to this TWP Extra. Enjoy pro wrestling. Enjoy hip hop. Look out for my feature coming soon.
Thanks for listening. Follow That WrestlePod on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube.
1, 2, 3. That's it.